mentioned, I had to pee and we had to get some beers. Cheers,
Hey, cheers.
man. Yeah.
This has been awesome.
All right. Yeah, this is fun. So now you've anxiously awaited our discussion about Pearl Jam's 10, I suppose. So now we're gonna get into it. So one of my favorite albums probably ever. It's constantly. I mean, people ask me all the time, like, what's your top 5? What do you think? You know, and I'm always kind of all over the board with it. I never know. It's kind of just, it kind of rotates, and there's new people that I hear all the time that are like, that surface up into that, like my top 5 of the year or the month or whatever. But 10 has always been at the top of, I mean, it's just the way that I heard it for the first time, and like remembering my best friend in college, or I'm sorry, my best friend in high school, when he brought over his guitar and we just went straight into Alive, Pearl Jam. We just went like, and Black was one of the first songs that I sang, and it was all Pearl Jam. He'd talk about all of that, and he would just give me all these facts about members of the band and the history and the name, and I mean, it's just it was what I got into before I even really was a big Kurt Cobain guy, because I mean, I love Kurt, I love Nirvana, I love what they've done for the music. I know he's very polarizing, and I know a lot of people don't like what he did, but and he definitely hated Pearl Jam too. But I just love what this album was to me at the time, because I heard it in such a random situation, and then it stuck with me for years and years and years, because this came out in 91, right? And this was fresh off the heels of, is it Andy Wood?
Yes.
From Mother Love Bone? Andy
Mother
Wood's
Love Bone.
death,
Yeah.
right? And he was roommates with Chris Cornell, correct?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's got to do a number on you, man. I mean, just the guy. Yeah, the stories about Andy Wood are just legendary, man. That guy, I mean, seemingly from Stone and from Mike, they always would talk about, like, he was a guy that would just go into, or was it, who was it? Was it Stone and Jeff?
Stone and Jeff were in Mother Love Bone.
Yeah, Stone and Jeff, yeah. So Stone and Jeff they would always say, like, this guy was playing every single night with, like, 12 people in the audience like it was the fucking Coliseum. Like, he was playing to the big, like, in his mind, he was in front of, you know, in like Wembley Arena. Yeah. So I just think that's so cool that these guys came from such a tragic situation and then created some of the best music of. I mean, this is one of the best albums in rock and roll, I think, ever.
Oh, absolutely.
And not debut
I
aside.
think debut or not, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, so what's funny about this album for me, even though this is, you know, if I have my list of island albums, like the only 5 vinyl albums I'm bringing to an island, this is number 1 for me. Okay, this is by far my favorite album ever written. There's not a throwaway track on this album.
There isn't.
No, the flow and whoever came up with the order of songs, it's absolutely perfect.
So important.
The way one song goes into another for this album, it just does not hit a wrong note ever from beginning to end. No. And there's just so much emotion, so much feeling, such great stories to go in this album. So but when this came out in August of 91, so I had just graduated high school. I graduated high school in May of 1991. And I told you, like, when my big influences and the music I was into, you know, the other probably biggest album for me is Pyromania, Def Leppard, because of what that did for me. But I was a huge hair metal guy. Yeah. So in high school, it was Warrant, it was Poison, it was Rat, Iron Maiden. I loved, you know. So it's all these bands that were such a 180 from what Pearl Jam was.
Oh, completely.
So when Pearl Jam comes out in 91 and releases this, and this is on the heels of, like, you know, Nirvana was kind of rearing. I can't remember which one came out first or which one I heard first. I have a feeling it was Pearl Jam.
Probably.
And then Nirvana came out, but then Nirvana hit it huge, and that opened the gateway for Pearl Jam, because this album did not hit it right away. No. And it certainly didn't hit it right away for me, because I refused to listen to it.
Why do you think that was with this versus Nirvana?
I don't know. I think what was on the radio at the time was so different that I don't know that people were ready for this or that people wanted this. Yeah. I refused to listen to it because of what it was doing to the music that I loved. I'm like, my music was about all the lyrics were about having a good time, drinking, girls,
Party.
sex, rock and roll,
right. Drugs,
drugs and rock and roll, and the look, for better or worse, I hate it now, but at the time, Poison, first time I saw the look with the cat dragging cover, I thought it was like 4 chicks.
Yeah,
and it was like, and then you're like, oh, hang on, those are 4
those
dudes.
Are 4 men that get all the chicks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the look was just different, and I was so into that other genre, and Skid Row and Warrant. Janie Lane was one of my favorite songwriters, and I still love Janie, and I still love Warrant because of that time in my life and what that music evokes in me. But when this came out, I was like, look at these clowns, like they're dressed in plaid with boots. They look stupid. Their music sounds stupid. The vocalist,
the same way.
So the vocalist, right? Yeah. So the vocals we were used to lilistening to were like Axl Rose, Sebastian Bach, like these guys who have soaring vocals. And then this guy comes around with a voice that I could probably do. Like, who does this clown think he is? He's not a singer. So. But that was how I felt. Yeah. So I almost had, just in me, I had intrinsically like this wall built up around saying, fuck grunge.
Yeah.
It's a stupid look. The music is stupid. It's killing good music.
Yeah.
So I shut it out.
Yeah. So it's funny that you say that because, so one, I love grunge for that reason, because I feel like I always, in my music education, in my informal music education from my dad and from my friends and everything, I always skipped over the 80s because nothing grabbed me about it, because it wasn't anything that I was going through, it wasn't anything that I was doing, it wasn't anything that I stood for. It was a lot of parties.
It just didn't connect.
It just didn't connect with me. And like, I get it, I understand it. There's certain types of music that I listen to. I'm like, it's not my thing, but I understand why it's popular, because they're incredible musicians. I just have a big problem with the egos that were involved in the lead singers of the guy, like you mentioned, like the Axls and the Sebastians and the Bret Michaels. Bret Michaels is a fucking nightmare to deal with, dude. He came to Ribfest,
and he's just not a good singer.
No,
not in my opinion,
dude. He caused a fucking scene at a Ribfest show where he was playing like solo country music, and he was like, "I am not going out on that stage till all the VIP seats are full." Well, guess what? You're waiting a long time. It's not happening anytime soon. This dude's a total fucking nut. But it was like that. And then these guys were like the recluses. They were like everybody was inside. Like they were all the introverts, the weird kids, the people that they weren't the cool kids in high school. These were the kids. These were the kids that were getting beat to fuck every day. Yeah. And they were going home and writing about it. Like kids that grew up in really shady situations, and like music was the way out. It wasn't like So that's why I loved grunge, because it came out of a garage, and that's where I started playing. And like I wasn't around for the birth of this, but I was around my dad when he was, in my formative years, when he was telling me about this album, and he was telling me about not only this but other artists around that time that I ended up reintroducing him to later on because I got into it. But I was always a big grunge guy, and I remember there's a guy that I can't say his name on here because like people will know. There's a professional musician. I'll tell you after. There's a professional musician that is a local guy, not Xander. I want to get that out of the way. It's not him. He's a good guy. I met him. He's a nice dude. Not him. There's another guy that lives locally that's a musician in a band from the 80s, a hair metal guy. And he saw me playing one night at a place up in Tarpon. And one of my friends was like, "Oh, you should hear this guy sing some Chris Cornell." And I was like, "I don't really want to do that right now." And then he slams his fist on the table. He's like, "I fucking hate grunge." In the middle of the restaurant. This is a professional musician. This guy is, he had a hit on the radio.
Yeah.
And he's mad because it took away the lack of genuine nature of that music. Yeah. And he is so beyond pissed that he can't bullshit it anymore. Like that was what I got from it. And I was like, I've never seen that outburst about this music ever, because even musicians recognize, like, man, that there's a lot of really talented players in grunge that don't get a lot of love. Like I think Mike McCready is one of the best guitar players ever. And,
absolutely.
This guy, no one talks about him ever.
No
one's. No, it's never in anybody's. He's never on the charts. Like, dude, Kurt Cobain and Billy Joe Armstrong are on like the Rolling Stone guitar players of all time. And like I can't remember if Mike McCready's on there or not. I'm sure he is, but like just the fact that they're on there and
that's
I
a
can't
travesty.
remember. It
is a travesty.
It's insane.
So the funny thing is, I mentioned like one of the bands I loved the most, you know, the one that connected the most with me in high school was Warrant.
Mm-hmm.
And right now you can kind of look back and laugh and say, well, it's kind of just like glam metal, whatever. It had no meaning, but Janie tried. Like I think he was a good songwriter. Lyrically, he tried to expand a little bit. Musically, they were never, I think, on this level.
Right.
But it was just a fun party band. It was entertaining.
Yes.
It was entertaining to watch, and there were several of his songs that actually did strike chords with me, and that I really, really enjoyed. And it was Janie Lane who I remember I read an interview, and you know, so back then I don't know if you were ever around for like Circus Magazine and Rip Magazine, like the metal magazines. I think they were probably long gone. By the time you showed up.
I know what they are, but I don't.
I would read these in high school.
I never read them
because that was my thing. Like it was just hair metal. But there was an interview in one of those magazines, Metal Edge or whatever, one of those, and Janie Lane said that the moment he knew that hair metal was dead was when he went to the Columbia Records, because they had a deal with Columbia. Columbia had signed Alice in Chains.
Oh,
and so for years,
another one, yeah.
For years, the behind the reception desk at Columbia Records in Los Angeles was a huge picture of Warrant with Janie Lane, and I was probably the cherry pie, you know, one of the cherry pie pictures or whatever. And he stated in this interview that he shows up at the Columbia Records office and goes to the reception, and all of a sudden behind
it's Jerry and Lane.
It's Alice in Chains.
Yeah.
And he's like, I remember reading that in an interview where he said that was the moment he realized hair metal was dead, grunge was the thing now, and as a hair metal lover, that pissed me off. And again, it was because I had such a connection with hair metal, and I couldn't connect with these guys.
Right.
I did not understand what their music was about. I didn't understand their look. I didn't understand, and I didn't give them a chance. Was the problem? I didn't give them a chance till a couple years later.
Right. So you first heard it in what, 93?
So 93 was when Versus came out. So their second album came out. I was still a grunge sucks.
Yeah.
Get your plaid shirts out of my face. Get your Doc Marten boots out of my face.
Sew it up.
Yeah, exactly.
Why are there so many holes in this shit?
So what's funny is 93 rolls around, Versus is released. I am still a grunge hater. I hadn't even given it a chance. I wouldn't listen to it just because of what it evoked in me.
And so many others in that time too were around the same thing.
Because I think it was such a shift, you know. So I think
everything was
we
grunge
had grown up on a totally different genre of music that was in every way a polar opposite to this, in every fucking way.
So much.
And so what happened in 93 was a very good friend of mine who I grew up with here in Tampa. He's a couple years younger than me, but our families have always been very close, and we always used to get together around Christmas. So Christmas in 93, they come to our house as per usual. This guy's a very good singer, very good guitar player, very good friend of mine, and we used to love to jam. We used to just love to play. And he loved this album, and he'd been trying to get me to listen to it for years.
Yeah.
And so finally in 93, because of him, I remember so clearly, he told me, look, get in a room, go to your room, turn the light out, and just play it from beginning to end.
The lights, man.
Just listen to it.
Yep.
He's like, just give it one chance. It's 50 minutes of your life.
Yeah. That's what I say all the time about my EP. Give it one chance. I was like, it's 15 minutes, man. Just do it.
He's like, it's not even an hour of your life.
Yeah.
Close your eyes, turn the lights out, and just listen to it from beginning to end.
Yep.
And if after that you don't love it,
throw it
fine.
Away. Yeah,
fine.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know what? Because I love you as a friend, because we have a lot of similar musical tastes and whatnot, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it. That night in my room changed my life.
Yep.
Changed my life in so many ways, and like what I liked, and for music, what I was looking for music changed after I listened to this album.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I think a lot of what I was getting from music before was just it was very vacuous. I mean, there was not a lot of substance.
It's a lot of materialism in that time. Yeah, it's a lot of they're measuring their success by things that you don't really relate to.
You don't relate to, and it's very hedonistic, and and the lyrics aren't really telling you much of anything. They're not really building a story.
Right.
Musically, they're just they've got great chops, and CeCe DeVille's a great guitar player, and whatever. But I don't think he ever really pushed himself creatively. It was all about having fun.
No, Poison is one of those bands where like I've seen them live, and like I mean, obviously they don't suck as musicians, but because they're professionals and they've sold. But I remember seeing them live, and I'm like, this is just not that good.
It's not. It's not. But you thought it was good, and maybe it's because of how it made you feel. Maybe it's because it was on the radio. Maybe it's because your friends liked it.
It's the accessibility of it.
Yeah, and it was accessible, and like, hey, nothing but a good time. All right, it's party music, and Warrant's music was all party and drinking music, and you'd go see them live, and it was just a huge party. And the last time I saw Warrant, Janie Lane, I actually took a shot of tequila out of his bottle off stage, and I was like, dude, I just took a shot of tequila from Janie Lane's bottle.
And he's alive today.
So this is all pre-corona.
We got to preface that now. But don't worry.
But I go in my room, and I really try to give this album a chance and listen to it, and it was one of those moments where it's just transcendent, because I think there was something about Eddie's vocals that I just love, and I still love, and I still think right now, even though we're saying, he's got this like tenor range, it's a little lower, it's like the register, whatever. His voice is still very pure and amazing, and his control is amazing. But lyrically, how this album connected with me, I just remember the song that probably stuck the most with me that night was when I heard Black for the first time. And I heard that song and listened to the angst in his voice. I'm like, there is no hair metal that did this.
I got the
goosebumps. There was nothing that did that. There was so much pain in that voice.
I know.
And in what he was saying.
I'm gonna cry talking about this.
No, seriously. I have cried. I have cried after singing this song. But
it's a lot, man. I remember like the one thing that is that he gets knocked for is like is mumbling, and I don't know what the fuck he's saying. How can he be like, if you read it and you look into it, this guy is a genius. Like he's a poet that happens to be a singer.
Yeah.
He's a poet that has a good voice. I say that about so many other people. I mean, like I'm blanking on it now, but there's so many other people that I believe are just at the top of their game in terms of songwriting, and Eddie Vedder has always been the guy that can ground you with something that you've wanted to yell in somebody's face and then go, holy shit.
Yeah.
It's wild. It's so wild to me. Black was definitely one of those for me, because I was like, I don't know what the fuck he's saying. Yeah. And that was actually one of the first songs that I ever sang in front of people.
Yeah.
Because it was easy for me to hit those notes when we did it. Half step down, of course. But we did it in like the garage setting, because we played in a duo where I was the drummer and the guy was he was the guitar player, and we had a bass player and a guy that would occasionally play, keyboard with us and like the secondary guitar and stuff like that. But for the most part, it was me and my friend Cole, who was, we tried him singing, and then it just didn't work out, and I broke my hand in a basketball tournament. Not in a basketball tournament. After I was already subbed out, I punched something and punched a chair and exploded.
Somebody probably told you to turn it down.
So yeah. So I couldn't. Yes, that's what it was. Like preemptively, I heard it. And I remember like being so, because that's the only time in my life where I was like, this is how it was different with me with sports and with music. My dad turns around. He looks at me on the bench. He looks at me holding my hand. He sees it's broken. He's like, "Are you kidding me?" And I was like, "No." He goes, "This means you can't play All-Stars this year for baseball." And I was like, thinking in my head, I'm like, "Fuck All-Stars. I can't play drums.
Yeah,
I can't play drums for 3 months."
Yeah,
I was like, even when I got the fucking cast off, it would kill my hand, because it was like it was a boxer fracture. So it was bad. It was real bad. I mean, the trainer that was at USF looked at it and goes like, "I think it's broken." I was like, "Yeah, no shit." I was like, "Am I in trouble? Like, am I going to need to cut this off? Can you pop it back in? Can I go in the game?" And they were like, No, don't. I'm not touching this. So I was like, "This looks bad." So I mean, but that was one of the songs that like I would put on a list, and we would play like all this stuff. And I was like, because I was like, I think I can sing. I'm gonna try it.
Yeah.
So I put like this stuff and some Audio Slave stuff on there that we'd been doing, and like like everything from that is like to Jack Johnson, and then we do like Stained and stuff like that, like Mumford and Sons, because that was out at the time. So I put that on a list, and I remember Black always being the one where we would sing, and I would be like just so because I wasn't in a situation yet where I had a ridiculous heartbreak where it just devastated me. Where when I heard this after it happened, I was like, I know what he's saying now.
Yeah.
And I didn't even need to look at the lyrics. I was like, I know what he's talking about. Yeah. And it wasn't a situation where I was like, I need to read this.
Yeah.
It was like I read it once already, and then I listened to it. I was like, I get it. And then it happened to me, and I was like, wow.
It just
wild.
And the thing is, like, the thing about that song, and I think, people that write songs that well, you don't need to listen to the lyrics. Nope. The music alone can set a tone, can set a mood. And that music alone is just haunting. I mean, it's just, it's so unbelievably beautiful.
And it's majors, too. It's major chords.
And
other than the E minor that's in there.
Other than the E minor.
So it's on a major key,
and then
I believe.
You've got Jay Fayment on this, like, fretless bass, just doing unbelievable work.
Oh, my God, that's right.
What he does underneath the bass, basically the chorus progression.
You can hear that
and the solo
so well on the
and you just hear like what he's doing on the fretless bass. It's unbelievable.
Unreal.
It's unreal.
I didn't realize it was a fretless. Yeah.
Oh, like you hear that like at the beginning when it's like.
Yeah, right.
And I think, God, I want to say, when I've seen him live, is he actually doing like a fretless stand-up bass? I can't remember, but he's just so incredibly talented. But I think that song showcased everybody's talent in that band. But particularly, I think, again, throwing it back to Eddie, not only his vocal performance, but just what he did lyrically with that song.
Yes.
Like there are lines from that song that, probably my favorite is when he says, like, I hope someday you'll have a beautiful life. I hope you'll be a star in somebody else's sky, but why not mine?
Yeah.
Why can't it be mine?
Why can't it be mine?
And it's like, that, holy shit. I'm like, why can't I write something like that, man?
It's insane.
That, like, every time I sing that line, it hurts.
It kills me so bad.
Kills
and
you.
it's not even a situation where I'm like longing for someone's company now. It's just that I remember that. I remember that feeling, and that's why
being in that mental space.
That's what I tell Jasmine all the time. I'm like, you gotta understand, like, when I get emotional when I sing these songs, I'm not crying because I miss this person. I'm not crying because I miss something or someone. I'm crying because I remember this.
Yeah.
Like I remember what it was like.
Yeah.
Like just completely by myself.
Yeah.
And like no one was around. And like, I mean, it really the only thing that was the difference between, being happy and being miserable and like not being able to be around was music. I needed just that little boost, but it was like I remember those little moments, and like even though there's happy memories attached to this song, like singing in front of people for the first time, it also reminds me of a situation where I was like, this is the only thing that I had. That was it.
And I think the reason it works that way, right? If you've been in that situation or in that position, and all of a sudden a song comes along like Black that puts you back in that position, or it's almost like it's telling you,
yes,
you're not alone in this.
Right.
You're not the only one that goes through stuff like this.
Not at all.
We've been through this, and we're okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. So I think a lot of times when songs like that connect with you, it's almost like it gives you that company that tells you you're not alone. You can get through this.
Yeah.
And you've just got to dig deep. But that's how I think music really helps people through really tough times. It's that connection.
Yes.
It's if you connect lyrically with the song, emotionally with the song, it just it just gives you a hand to hold almost.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt with songs that did get you through tough times as they're happening. Sometimes it's remembering something, but sometimes it's actually there's shit happening right now.
Yes.
And a song will connect with you that allows you to see light at the end of the tunnel, that allows you to see, hey, there is a way out.
Yeah.
But God, that song, I think, we were just talking about this a little earlier, but it was never released as a single because Pearl Jam didn't want it as a single.
Right.
But it was such a good fucking song. Radio stations started playing it, and it went to number one, never having been released as a single.
Right.
And the other reason they didn't want to release it as a single is because they didn't want to make videos. They're like, this video thing is bullshit.
Yeah.
Again, a 180 departure from the hair metal guys.
Yeah. Eddie has not been quiet in the fact that he hates public acclaim for shit. He's like, okay, great, we won a Grammy. Like, shove it up your ass. See ya. I don't care.
And they always thought this music video thing was like such a just like a ploy.
Do they have videos? I don't
they
think
did. So they have a video for Jeremy. They have a video for
I
live.
that one. Yeah.
But like Alive and Even Flow, by and large, were just live footage videos, right? So it's like concert footage.
I remember Jeremy.
Jeremy was like the
one
kid.
That's like, whew, yeah.
And then
after
story. Jeremy, the next video they did was Do the Evolution, which was
I know.
Which
was
the
that
animated video on Yield.
Yeah,
it was on Yield.
Yes.
Yeah. So they went, I don't know, a decade without making a video because they didn't want to make a video, and it's I really respect when an artist says, you know what, the record company wants me to make a video because that's going to sell. It's going to get us on MTV. It's going to sell more records. But you know what? That's not us. That's not them. That's not the vision we have for this album or for our art. And that's just a creative decision on their part.
Yeah, and I agree with that decision because I think by and large it should be, you should be, listening to the music for the music, not going like, man, I can't wait to see this music video.
Right. I can't even when I found that out about Black, I can't even imagine what the video would have looked like or how that would have tainted the song for me.
Yeah.
Because then necessarily, once you see the video, there's images attached to the music that you didn't necessarily have before. But I don't want those images. I know what that song did for me.
I have my own images.
You have your own, right? So I totally get that. And I like that there are other videos, for Alive and Even Flow where it's just concert.
Yeah,
it's just concert footage. Like Jeremy was more of an actual video.
Yes,
and that's I think one of the only one. Really, the only one they did for this album.
That was
Jeremy.
So okay, let me ask you this: do you think that because for me, I know we talk about MTV Unplugged stuff all the time. Do you like the studio version of Black or the Unplugged version better?
Whew.
Because it tosses for me depending on the day. The only clear difference that always reminds me like, hey, this is a great version too, is at the end when he starts adding those little vamps. When he's screaming and yelling, he's like, fuck God. You. Yeah. I'm like, oh, I'm right there. I'm like,
oh my God.
Man.
So
he's like long hair. He's like over the top.
I almost brought the Unplugged vinyl. I don't know if you have it, but
I do not. I do not. My collection is very limited, but it's all very important.
So the that MTV Unplugged, I think still to this day for me, is the best Unplugged album or the best Unplugged show they ever did.
I agree.
For MTV.
Yeah.
So, and to me, it's Pearl Jam first, the Alice in Chains Plugged on second, and then a lot of people really like, and I like it too, the Nirvana Unplugged.
Yeah, I like it because it's a totally different side of them, and you can really see, like I remember showing you this, like, we were drinking some beers one night, and I remember pulling up the YouTube video of Where Did You Sleep Last Night, and I remember showing you his eyes, and I'm like, this is the look of a man who knows he's getting murdered soon. This is like he's scared. So I just remember that like that, just that. But the Alice in Chains one is phenomenal too. We used to listen to that all the time, and
because it really just kind of you really hear better interplay between Lane Staley. Doing
you really hear the harmonies in that
with Jerry
too.
Cantrell
is
unreal,
insane. I don't Simon and Garfunkel of the grunge world.
I don't think there's ever been, because they did like, and again, you'd have to get Keith or somebody who knows what they're talking about in here, but I don't know what their harmonies were or what set them apart, but it was very weird harmonies. It was very kind of dissonant, almost harmonies.
Man in the Box always gets me because I remember I can't determine what note it is or who's singing what. Yeah. And I'm like, what? No. I can never hear it.
Their interplay is just insane.
It's crazy.
But yeah, so I think between those two, like you, it would depend on the day. If I had to pick, I would probably go with the Unplugged version because of the raw emotion. And I really listened to a lot of acoustic music before that Unplugged came out. I'm trying to think what the acoustic albums that I would have listened to before, because again, everything I listened to was really hair metal.
Right.
That may have been one of the really first acoustic performances that I was like, you can do that on an acoustic guitar. Holy shit. Yeah. Because you watch that performance, and a lot of this falls on Eddie Vedder's shoulders, him as a showman, as a frontman.
Yep.
What he did during Porch, during that. I have never felt more energized during an acoustic song than when they did their version of Porch, and he's just going nuts on his little stool, and he's shaking, and his voice is coming out, and you're like, holy shit, this is acoustic guitars, man. Yeah. This is acoustic guitars in a very kind of toned down setting, and they still managed to make it sound heavy and dark. And just like insanely powerful, which I hadn't really heard before then. Black was amazing. Alive acoustic was amazing. I think it was only 6 or 7 songs on that album or in that performance. Yeah. But to me, it solidified the place of the acoustic guitar in grunge. Yeah.
It was huge.
It was huge because
huge.
I was thinking
everything comes from that in grunge.
How can you take this album with its power, with the production, and make it sound good on acoustics? It's just not going to work. And they were like, they proved everybody wrong.
Yeah. I remember that. I remember seeing that unplugged footage because, like you, I didn't listen to this till well after it was out, obviously, because I was born in 93. Yes, I'm a baby. But I'm an old soul in the sense that, like,
my
dad...
I was in college.
Yeah. My dad...
I can feel old.
My dad introduced me to these guys and this type of music and good rock and roll and solid music, and I don't like it all that he introduced me to, but it still gave me an appreciation for what it sounded like and a little bit of a history of this. But this was odd because, so to put it into perspective, what always blows my mind about this is that this came out 2 years after, like, Appetite for Destruction. Mm-hmm. And the difference in what it sounds like, because Appetite is a phenomenal album in itself, but it's a debut album from a band who I consider to be 10 or 15 years older than Pearl Jam, when really they're kind of around the same time, but doing 2 completely different things. Mm-hmm. They just took a different fork. But I'm not big into Guns because of Axl, but I'm a huge Slash fan. I think he's a phenomenal player and stuff like that. I think that he doesn't get enough. I think he doesn't get enough love for his solo work too that he does, not only with Guns, but I digress. I just think it's so funny how close these albums are to not only this, but to me, 90s pop was dog shit.
Oh yeah.
I mean, my God, it was
terrible.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it was terrible.
But at the same time, like, 1989 to the 91, when these guys were writing and forming all the grunt, because I mean, Soundgarden was like 87 or something like that, right? Yeah. 87. So like 87, like grunge is starting to emerge as the front runner of new music, when really it's just these guys in a Seattle like heroin den, just like playing sad music, and then they're like, "This is
so
the best."
Incestuous, like these bands, like
so crazy.
They're all interrelated.
Everybody's all connected, and the fact that some of these guys never really got a chance to play together or meet or kind of do that, because that's what everybody does now. Everybody plays with each other. They produce their own stuff, like Sturgill and Tyler Childers, and all these mashups, the Crossroads shows that they have on the CMT, whatever, like all this stuff, like there's a bunch of collaborations and things like that. And I always think that it would have been great if, we got a chance to see everybody live to their full potential, because obviously, we deal with the tragic death of Kurt, and then, Lane after that, and then Scott Weiland after that, and then most recently Chris Cornell, and then to start it all off was Andy Wood, and like all these guys were frontmen in these groups, and they all died in horrific states of their life, and it was just like all the 80s people were like, "See, I told you, I told you this is fucking bullshit music, like they're all killing them," it wasn't really like that. It was that this music, the grunge gave a platform for the insecure, small, like the pipsqueaks that were in the back, that were like, just like, and it gave them a chance to tell their story. And these guys all have insane stories. Yeah. But they, that was the thing about hair metal that I don't really like, is that you don't really know a lot about these guys. Right. They're not wearing it on their sleeve.
For them, it was all about an image.
Yes.
They on purpose, I think, didn't want to be deep. Right. Didn't want to touch on any subjects that were at all either controversial or potentially very kind of
politically divisive.
Correct.
They can't.
They just wanted, we just want to go out, have a good time, get laid. That's really all it was about. That's really all it was about.
Don't we all? Yeah.
That's really all it was about. Yeah. And then this album comes along, and there's songs about suicide,
yes,
songs about incest,
relationships with your broken relationships with your father,
broken
and things.
so much of
what's the incest song?
So Alive. And so what is so funny? What is so funny?
Oh yeah.
And I've read so many interviews.
I was thinking it was another one, but okay.
I've read so many interviews where Eddie Vedder talks about
Eesh.
when we were playing this song. He actually thinks it was cathartic to see how the audience took it differently than what he intended.
Yeah.
He thought that lifted a curse, right? So he felt when they start playing Alive. Mm-hmm. In arenas, and everybody's like fist pumping, and everybody's like saying singing the chorus.
Yeah.
And he's like thinking in his mind, these people are singing it because they're happy to be alive, whereas it was written on, it's a burden to be alive.
Yeah.
It's a burden to be alive
but I'm still
when you've
alive,
had a shitty life,
right.
when you've had your father die, you were raised by your stepfather
who you
that
found
you
out
thought was your father, and then you find out later that was not your father.
Right.
And then the sort of
right.
The other part of that song that it kind of delves into, which the obviously the father part and the dying father being raised by his stepfather, that's
right.
real. That's Eddie Vedder's story.
That's a wild story too. Yeah.
But then the song takes a fictional turn where the mom then has an incestuous relationship with her son who looks like his biological father.
Oh.
That's what the song's about.
Oh.
So that's what the song's about. It's like the mom is having this incestuous relationship with her son who looks like her dead biological.
We're learning
like the biological father.
That is dark.
So it's really dark.
Wow.
And it's actually a trilogy of songs. So it was Alive was the first song.
Yes.
Once is the second song, where that kid then grows up to be a mass murderer.
Right.
And then the third song is one called Footsteps, where he's waiting on death row. But Footsteps was not put on 10. It was actually on the B side of the Jeremy single.
Holy shit.
So it was like the story.
God.
So that trilogy was a story about
this
that kid.
This is wild. This is why I love this. This is why I am such a believer in the music world, especially even being a musician for a long time. I believe that you should learn something new about music that you love every day. And
Absolutely.
this is mind-blowing to me.
No,
I didn't know this.
Because
I didn't know it was a whole trilogy of the stories.
No, so it's Alive and Once, which both made it here, but part 3 of the trilogy is Footsteps.
Right.
And so you have to listen to that one. That's the B-side for the Jeremy single, but that one's about the kid finds out his dad was dead, finds out his stepdad is not his real dad.
Right.
His mom has this incestuous relationship with him.
Mm-hmm.
He is so psychologically devastated by that, and then in Once, he goes on to become a mass murderer. And then in Footsteps, he's waiting on death row. And that's the trilogy that Eddie Vedder wrote.
Wow.
That is so dark.
Wow.
What fucking 80s hair metal band would have written a song or a trilogy of songs with that deep and dark a theme?
Nobody.
It would not have happened.
Nobody.
It was just not the time.
Yeah.
Right? So these guys opened the door for something that was just so much deeper, so much darker, that delved into so much more human emotion and human suffering and angst and pain.
Crazy.
That until you sit down and listen to this and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
But
I knew that the story about his dad, and I always knew it's not a happy song, because in the bridge it's like, is something wrong? She said, of course there is. You're still alive.
Yeah.
But do I deserve to be?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I'm not, what am I doing here? The bridge always breaks it down, but it sounds happy. And I love music that sounds happy, but is sad.
What
I love
do people
that.
look like every time you sing that song? People are going nuts happy.
Uh-huh.
They're not sitting there crying, going, "Oh my God, it's such a burden to be alive."
Right.
And so what's funny is
They're
So Eddie writes it from this incredibly dark perspective as a story, but then it's amazing. Like he says, audiences obviously took it a very different way.
Yeah.
And turned what was a very negative, dark song into a very positive song about about being alive and how that's incredibly hey, you know what? Despite everything, I'm here. I'm still alive. Yep. I'm still alive. That's the way people sing it. Mm-hmm. And he said, when he saw that, it broke the curse.
Yeah.
Like he says that. He's like, it was cathartic for them to take what I wrote and turn it 180 degrees and make it something positive, which is kind of cool. But then most people don't know, and when they're singing the song, they have no idea. This song's about incest and about a kid who found out his real dad was dead. I mean, it says it right there in the lyrics,
this is wild
but it's crazy.
To me. I'm a lyric nut too, so
no, it's crazy.
I can't believe that. Okay, so what do you think your all right, so before we get into the favorite songs, This is their debut album. Now, I've heard the argument from people before, and I was like, I think, to me, this is probably, if not one of my favorites, but my favorite ever debut album. Mm-hmm. I've heard the argument before, like, obviously it's not the first time these guys picked up instruments. You know, they were all playing in a band before, but
it was their first time together.
First time together putting anything out, and like these were little lyrical pieces that Eddie's probably had in his back pocket for years that he's like never really got a chance to do. Mm-hmm. And also, there's a freewheeling element to it where, like you said, with Release, where he just is in there just vamping, just getting in there Jim Morrison style and like not, you know, whipping his dick out on stage and stuff like that. But like he was going and he was, you know, just in the booth and like, I'm going to get into a dark state. I'm going to talk to my dad here for a second.
Yeah,
you know?
And that's what
Can
it
you
is.
see? Yeah,
and he's telling his dad to release him,
right?
Like from that memory and from that pain.
That's another one too where I was like,
that one also gives me goosebumps again because of how profound it is. But you know, you were talking about how Eddie is such a poet, and you know, one of the coolest things I've been able to do recently is visit Seattle. And
I love Seattle.
I'd never been there till last year.
Seattle.
Never been there till last summer.
Oh, I want to go back so bad.
my wife and kids were incredibly gracious in allowing me to turn it into a Pearl Jam vacation. We were only there a couple days while we were waiting to go on a cruise.
Is that what the EMP is based off of now? The Experience Music Project? Is that because they theme it, I think.
So the at Mopop in the museum.
Yeah.
There's a huge Pearl Jam exhibit now.
Okay. What do they call it now? Because it used to be that I thought it was the EMP.
I don't know what the EMP is. We went to Mopop, which is like a museum of, and Mopop just had that big Alice in Chains concert a couple nights ago.
Oh shit! The one. Yeah. Oh my god, that lineup was nuts.
And
dude.
Eddie was a part of that too.
Nuts. Yeah.
But so last year we head up to Seattle, and of course usually whenever we travel, I'm the guy that, you know, pulls out the city guides.
Yes.
And my wife loves it. She's like, that's your job. Mm-hmm. And whatever I pick, you know, that's what we're going to do.
Right.
So she always lets me kind of handle that. So I had told her, you know, she knows, but I had told her, you know, when we go to Seattle, I'm gonna want to go to the first place Pearl Jam played a concert. I'm gonna want to see the studio where they recorded, you know, 10. I want to go see like the Mopop exhibit.
Yeah.
So it was gonna turn, and I wanted to go to Jimi Hendrix's grave. She drew a line there because it was quite a ways out of Seattle. I thought it was a little closer.
How much do you like Jimi Hendrix?
Yeah. She's like,
can you even name 3 songs?
She was like, was Jimi Hendrix in Pearl Jam? Then no, you're not going.
She'd be like, actually, he did guess with them once. I'm like, really? No.
But so we go to Mopop, and this was the point of the whole story. So we get to Mopop. The entire third floor is a Pearl Jam exhibit.
Oh my god!
And so they had recreated the studio setup for when they recorded 10. They had the studio set up just like it would have looked with all the equipment, the guitars, amps, everything, the way it would have looked when they recorded 10. But then all through the exhibit hall, they had all these glass cases where it was just, you know, those little Mead black and white notebooks. In fact, there's one in here. But
the comp books?
Yeah, the composition books.
I was going to bring those. I was going to bring this up. I was going to bring this up because I remember my buddy in high school telling me Eddie Vedder only writes in composition books.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing I write in. Did you know that? Yeah, that's the only thing that I write. I always have a composition book on me because I remember him telling me about he only has composition books and he cuts down his lyrics from like 50 songs to like 10 or something like that. He has so many of them in the thing. Oh man, this is insane.
So
what is this?
This is kind of cool. So while I keep talking about Seattle.
Oh my God.
So that's just like a copy of what some of them might have looked like. So obviously not, but there's this glass case. There's this glass case after glass case.
Set list there.
Yeah. There's glass case after glass case with all of Eddie's original composition books. And each composition book on the front, I don't know if they didn't do it for this one, but usually on the front of the composition book, it would say January, 1992.
Right.
And for any given year, there were probably 40 composition books.
This is crazy.
So Eddie is just in a constant state of creation. He is constantly creating. He is constantly writing. And so when you're thinking, oh, he just wrote the lyrics to Live. No, he wrote the lyrics to 52 songs.
Yeah.
And then out of that one,
right.
he got what eventually was Alive.
Yeah.
And then the other thing you see in those composition books is he's got
wild.
Pearl Jam logos. He's got art stuff. Like, he is just constantly writing in composition books. I had no idea how prolific a writer he was.
Yeah.
So it's not just the quality of the stuff, it's the quantity. I mean, the sheer quantity of notebooks that were in that museum was astonishing. And you're just like looking, and these are all original. So you're looking as a Eddie Vedder geek here. Wow. I was almost like crying
this is crazy.
Looking at all this stuff. So it's kind of cool that they included this in this collection here. But
I'm gonna post some of these pictures that are in here. I'll take a couple snapshots of them later and show you what some of the stuff that we have in here, because I've never seen any of this before. This is really fucking cool. Some of that stuff is awesome. The pictures of him climbing on the stage. Oh, yeah. That's another thing I love about him is that like he was like
that energy,
the guy. Even the stage crew was like, "Please don't do this. You're gonna die." He was like, "Fuck you, I got it." So he's like singing with the mic, he's like just climbing and shit. Oh my god!
So he would usually find during the instrumental portion of Porch is when he would find a little bit of time to actually go out, hang off the rafters, do all the crazy shit he would do as as a performer.
Yeah.
And then even he said, I remember I read an interview way back when they were probably touring for Versus or Vitalogy, somewhere in that era, where he talked about that performance where he went up and he was hanging from the rafters during the solo to Porch.
Lollapalooza or something like that, or something like that.
It was, I think
like
it was it was Pink Pop. It was Pink Pop.
Yeah, something like that.
So he was singing, and he's saying he wants to top himself every time. And he said, after I did that, like he said, when he did that fall, he's like, I could have very well died. So he's like, how do you top that? He's like, well, next time I come out, I'm just going to cut my arm off and throw it in the crowd. He's like, how do you top that? I'm like, so at some point you got to draw a line. But yeah, so his stage persona, his performance, and it's still amazing. You know, when I've had the opportunity to see them live, it's always, he's obviously tempered it down a bit.
Yeah, he's tapered off. Yeah,
he's kind of my age.
When was
the
first time you saw him?
So first time I saw him was actually a really cool show. So it was when I first got into him. So this is now after the Versus album, when they were touring for Versus.
Okay.
They were in the middle of a lawsuit against Ticketmaster.
Yep, I remember this. I remember this story. They were heated.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So they were like, well, now they obviously don't give a shit because their ticket prices are crazy.
Right.
But at that point, they were in a lawsuit against Ticketmaster and against their Ticketmaster fees. So when they did that tour, they were exclusively going to venues that did not use Ticketmaster. So already, any big stadium was excluded.
Right.
You know, anybody that used Ticketmaster, they wouldn't go there.
Done. Yeah.
So when they came to New Orleans, they played my high school football stadium.
Oh shit!
Which was City Park, New Orleans.
What the fuck?
My high school's home football stadium was not on our campus; it was in City Park, and it's called Tad Gormley Stadium.
Okay,
but it's a high school football stadium.
Yeah.
And
how many in there? Like 1,500, 2,000?
No, maybe like, I don't know, at least a few thousand. It must have been 10,000 maybe.
10,000?
So it's a big stadium.
Jesus, that's a huge stadium.
So
it's
still a stadium. No, it's not like, it's
not.
Yeah, no. Even though it's a high school football stadium, it's not on a high school campus, so they do use it for other things.
Louisiana football, man, that's where it's at. Holy shit.
But I'm in a ballpark maybe 10,000 people.
That's still
if you included the floor.
Still a pretty small show.
Yeah,
I mean, considering
for them.
Yeah, for them.
Especially, and it was after Versus. They were huge.
Whatever it was. Yeah.
And the opening band was the Ramones before any of the Ramones died.
What?
So it was like the full
they
lineup.
Opened?
The Ramones opened. It was raining. We're on this high school football stadium. It was muddy as shit.
That's wild.
And
it's like Woodstock.
So we got there. We're on the floor for this with Betsy Hates. She's 5 feet tall. She hates being on the floor for concerts.
Oh, she went with you?
She can't see. Yeah. So we started dating in 91. So we've been dating for a couple years at this point.
Oh wow. 91. Wow.
So it's raining. It's muddy. Ramones come out and absolutely kill it. And most Ramones songs are like a minute and 30 seconds long.
Yeah, right.
Like,
yeah,
pure punk rock.
Let's get to the point. Yeah. Right.
So Ramones come out and play.
First chorus end.
And it was just kind of cool because it was the original Ramones. None of the Ramones had died at that point. And then Pearl Jam comes out and plays. And they've only got 2 albums worth of material at this point.
But arguably their best stuff.
Their energy.
Still, yeah.
Yeah, if I go back and look for bootlegs, I love listening to bootlegs from like that early, like the 92, 93.
Yeah.
Because there was just so much energy. There was just so much energy.
And Vitalogy was was after that, yes?
Vitology was after. So Versus was 93. Vitology would have probably been 94, 95.
So were they testing some of that stuff out? And
honestly, I don't remember if they played any new material during that show. It's just so far. It's just so long ago. Mm-hmm. But that was the first time I saw them live. Was at my high school football stadium in New Orleans, and on a rainy, muddy show with the Ramones, and it was just such a fun time. Yeah, it was just so good.
Man, what a lineup!
Yeah,
jeez. Who opened for you guys? The fucking Ramones.
The Ramones, yeah.
God, that's insane. So okay, I saw them. This is actually kind of a funny story. I went. I saw them in 2016. I went with my cousin Sean. His girlfriend Katie, and I went with McLean Mannix from Jericho Turnpike.
Oh, nice. Phenomenal guitar playing singer.
Yeah. And I went with him, and he's seen them before, and he knew all the ins and outs of it. It's like if you go to see Dave. You just like, you watch me, just like, I know what he's doing here. So like when I was like, oh man, they did the Pink Floyd interpolation into one of their I can't remember which one it was, but I remember it being, and I just remember listening to them and being in that arena. I mean, it was at the Amalie.
Okay.
And I remember being there and just like Animal was like a banger when they
was
started
this their tour
playing
like 2 or 3 years ago?
Yeah, 2016.
I was there.
Yeah, 2016.
I was there at that show.
Yeah, so that was the first and only time I've seen them.
Yeah.
Because I tell Jasmine this all the time. I never got into seeing live music until I was like late in high school.
Yeah.
Like I had gone to shows, but like my first unofficial concert was like the Backstreet Boys.
Oh yeah.
And like with my sisters and my mom, and then like I went to see Creed, and then Evanescence opened for them, which was a dope show. But Scott Stapp is a fucking
I've
maniac.
seen Evanescence. Yeah, they were really good.
Yeah, they're really good. So anyway, in 2016, I see Pearl Jam, and I'm just blown away because they're putting their own touch onto these songs, and they played 3 encores.
Yeah.
And then they turned the lights on. The people in there, they were like, get the fuck out of here. Stop playing. Like, people are leaving, and they, like, Eddie's like going back, bringing his bottle of wine out. And
I almost brought a bottle of wine today just in honor of Eddie. Yeah.
My buddy told me that in high school. He was like, Eddie only drinks wine when he's on stage. And I was like, maybe I'll do that. And I was like, no,
bottle.
I got 2 fucked up. Yeah. I was like, this is a lot. Yeah. Yeah, so I remember seeing them, and like I know they didn't do. I don't think they did like Black or Yellow Ledbetter that night, which were 2 that I was looking for. But they did Animal, which I really loved.
Yeah.
I think they did Corduroy.
Yeah,
I think they did that night, and then they did Alive, and they did. Did they do Better Man? I feel like they did or didn't.
Because I saw him.
I can't remember.
So
Even Flow, I think they did.
Because the thing is, like, on that tour, so I'm in the Pearl Jam fan club, hence the I had to wear it tonight for this.
There we go.
So I'm in the Pearl Jam fan club, and I had never really, I don't think, purchased concert tickets through the fan club because they offer them pre-sale.
Okay.
So I thought if I put in 2 shows, I would get one or the other.
Oh.
And so I put in 2 shows because they played Miami.
Miami the night before, right?
Like 2 nights before.
Yes.
Or 3 nights before, and then they played Tampa. And so I put in Miami and Tampa as my alternates for the expecting to get one. Yeah. I got both. So I'm like, well, A, I'm really happy.
Oh, we got to go.
My wife was a little pissed. She's like, what do you mean you're going to go to Miami? And I'm like, well.
Don't worry about it.
I can't sell them. They're non-transferable.
Yeah.
All this stuff. I'm not going to lose my money.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
I drove down to Miami, saw them 3 nights before.
They played American Airlines?
At the American Airlines Arena.
Yeah.
I don't think they had an opening band that night. I think they just came up and played.
So I got there. This is the only thing. I was working a job at that point where like it was impossible for me to get anywhere on time, like for late night stuff. So we didn't get in there until if they had an opening band, it was in between.
Yeah, I don't think they did.
I don't remember.
I think it was just Pearl Jam.
I mean, hey, they're big enough. They might as well.
Yeah. But the set they played in Miami was only had a few overlapping songs with the set they played 3 nights later in Tampa, and that's one of the things I love about bands like Pearl Jam and Dave Matthews. It's like if you go see them 3 nights in a row, you're not going to get. Whereas you go see a band like Poison, you see them 3 stops on a tour. It's the same goddamn songs in the same order.
It's the same 17 songs.
Exactly, no
for
departure.
35 years.
Yeah, exactly. So, and Def Leppard, as much as I love them. Again, it's the same kind of thing. It's very polished. I think their genre or their niche is very different.
That's what they've done. Yeah,
like they do not hit a bad note ever.
Yeah,
but it's the same show every time.
Right.
So it kind of gets a little old as much as I love them.
Yeah.
Whereas Pearl Jam, every time you go, it's going to be different. They're going to have fun. They're going to throw in some curveballs. They're going to improvise a little bit, but. The show they played in Miami was outstanding.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if it was Miami or here where he came out after the first encore and he played some acoustic songs, Eddie, by himself.
Oh, my God.
And
didn't get that in Tampa.
And he did Just Breathe, which was unreal.
Love
so
that
that was
song.
Miami? That was okay.
I think
that was Miami.
Maybe it was Tampa though. But the thing is, like the concert was so long ago, I'd have to look up the set and be like, "Oh, really? I missed that one."
And they played a Pink Floyd song in Miami, but then they played a different Pink Floyd song in Tampa because I think they did Wish You Were Here.
They did another Brick in the Wall and out of something. Maybe Porch. Was it Porch?
Okay.
No.
Porch. They always like meld into something. So it could have been
maybe Porch or even it could have been Even Flow too. I don't know. It was something. I don't know. But it was an amazing show, and like I've only seen them one time, and who knows? Maybe they'll unretire again, and then they'll come out.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, they were supposed to have a tour this year. And the last time I saw them,
because they have that the new album that came out. What is it called?
Gigaton.
Gigaton.
I don't know how to pronounce it,
whatever. Yeah,
but it's
GIF or GIF, whatever.
It's a great album. It's a great album.
I've actually not listened to the full thing yet. I've listened to a few things. I know it's getting a lot of heat, and everybody's like, "What the?"
Yeah, but it's like I will tell you there are some Pearl Jam albums that I just can't. I'm like, dude, this kind of blows.
Yeah, I have the same with artists that I love and respect to. I'm like, I listen to it. I'm like, I can't. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I can't. It's not the same.
Yeah, this album Gigaton's actually very good. But so I've seen Pearl Jam probably 6 times. Last time I saw them was 2 years ago, which for me I think was because this was 2016, the Tampa show.
Yes.
Yeah. So 2018,
April of 2016, I believe.
So in July of 2018, I saw them with my son. So Danny,
oh wow,
he loves Pearl Jam.
Was that like one of his first shows?
It was his first time going to Pearl Jam. It wasn't his first concert because we've taken him to other shows, but it was his first time seeing Pearl Jam. And the set list was perfect. Like the set list was great. The show was great, but I think what made it for me, like my favorite Pearl Jam show I've ever been to was sharing that with him.
Yeah,
because
that's gotta be a moment.
Just seeing his face, because he knew the songs. He knew, he wanted to be there. He was so excited.
Right.
We were down on the floor. We got really close to the stage. Eddie came down running. We were right by one of the like down the middle of the stage, from where the stage is over to the soundboard. There was actually a place for him to run.
Oh yeah.
And we were against that railing, and so when he would come down and run around there, he gave Danny a high five. We're like, so.
Holy shit.
We got up pretty close to Eddie, which is I'm a fanboy.
Yeah.
I've told my wife I will leave her for 2 guys. I'll leave her for Eddie Vedder. I'll leave her for Drew Brees. Yeah. And I'm not gay. So, so those are my man crushes.
I say the same thing for Jasmine. I was like, listen, keep it in line, or you're looking at the next Mrs. Tom Hardy.
If Eddie comes to me, I'm like I'm yours, Eddie.
Mm-hmm.
No, seriously, like when
that's so funny.
So like being at the show with him and kind of, it's one thing when you've already seen a band multiple times, even though every time you see Pearl Jam is different.
Oh,
That's what I love about them. It's just a great show every time. But seeing it through his eyes and seeing how he got into the music, how he got into the songs, how he was just like floored by it.
It
just
amazing.
Elevated it.
It's amazing.
It just elevated
and he'll never forget that.
He will. I will never forget that.
He'll tell that story.
Yeah.
I mean, forever. And that's what I love about those little moments of like growing up, going to concerts with my dad was like one of, and my mom too. My mom took me to quite a few shows. Before my dad didn't really take me to a lot of shows in the beginning. My mom took me to like the Creed show when I was 8. And my dad was like, "Are you fucking serious?" Saw my first thong that night. It was wild.
Hopefully not on a dude.
No,
it wasn't on Scott Stapp.
It was a woman that shouldn't have been wearing a thong, but it was very visible, and I was like, huh? Like staring at it.
Yeah.
And then the lady was in the front, the row in front of us, like threw a jacket over it and saw me staring, and my mom was like, "Thank you." it was pretty bad, and that is legitimately the thing that I remember most vividly. My dad's like, he's gonna come back. You can't take a kid to a rock and roll show, but you know, they were, and that's a band also that was closely tied to Pearl Jam, even though.
Yeah,
I mean,
because of Scott Stapp's sound,
exactly.
I think so.
But Scott Stapp
they'll get that comparison.
Scott Stapp's a fucking wacko, and Eddie Vedder is a genius.
Yeah.
Where do you put 10 in your top albums?
I've always said it's my number one.
Number one?
I really struggle to think of an album that I love more than I love this album. Where there's certainly other albums where I think every track is solid, every track is good. Other albums that have the same effect on me as far as like, wow, it's just great music through and through. But this to me is just my number one.
Yeah.
And it still speaks to me. I mean, in preparation for our conversation today, I've been spinning it the last couple of days to listen, and it's every time you listen to it, you hear there's something a little bit different. It connects with you in a different way. But as I was listening to it with Betsy yesterday, I was telling her, like, just song after song, it's just the flow, the order of the songs is perfect. When one song ends and the next one comes in, it's just like the sequence is just genius. And every song is good.
So
every song is good.
Every song is good, and I don't have a song that I dislike on this. I would say that like there's a song that I like the least, but it doesn't mean I dislike it.
Yeah.
Because every album, I feel like there's certain albums that I have those songs where like I like this song the least, but it doesn't mean I dislike it. But there's also albums that I listen to with my favorite bands where I hear a song and I'm like, that's just not good, and this doesn't have anything on that. So what is your like, so obviously Alive, Even Flow. I mean, let's throw Black in there because it did get a bunch of airplay, and Jeremy obviously too. So that was four technical singles on there out of a 10-track album.
Yeah.
So I mean so excluding those, what is your favorite like deep cut on this album? Because I have one. I think ours is the same, but I have one that's like it's like a 1 and 1A. Like, because there's always it's not ever 1 and 2 with this album because it's all so good, you know. But mine is Release, and then Porch is my 1A.
It's the same too.
Is it?
I have the same too. I thought you were going to say Release and Garden.
No, Garden is right there though too. But Porch is just
Release and Porch for me. And on any given day, depending on my mood, Porch might be 1A, and Release is 1B, and then Release is 1A, and Porch is 1B. So
I also love Deep too. Like I like
Deep's a great song.
I love that.
Honestly, the one song, if you're going to think about which song you like the least, mine's actually Once.
I think so too.
Yeah, like
it's either Once or Oceans.
Is
it Ocean or Oceans?
I think it's Oceans.
Oceans.
We can look right here real quick.
Yeah.
We have it. We do have it right
seeing
here.
the guts of it.
Yeah, so but yeah, like
I think that one might be my least favorite, but it's still a great song.
Yeah, it's Oceans.
Oceans, yeah. I enjoy that. I think the most like the deep cut that I mean Release is just it meant a lot to me because of there's such a family dynamic in that you can really tell he's just like aching and like crying out for something that he's never had, and things of he's just trying to be at peace with horrible things that have happened to him by no choice of his own.
Right.
So and I always love that about Eddie, is that he does not hold back. Like we were talking about earlier, like he goes into every show like no holds barred. He's just going in there. He's gonna tell you a story. Yeah. He'll make you laugh. He'll make you dance. He'll make you cry.
Yeah.
And he'll make you think.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. He always makes people think.
One of the things again that surprises me the most about this album is they probably had a total of 7 or 8 practice sessions as a band, and then they recorded before this.
Wow.
Yeah, because they so Andy Wood died in late 1990.
Yeah.
Eddie Vedder comes up in late 1990, early 1991 to
from
Seattle,
California.
From California, he's a surfer guy in San Diego. He was working at a gas station in San Diego.
Jesus,
so he comes up.
Crazy.
He gets the demo tape through Jack Irons, who was one of the former drummers for Red Hot Chili Peppers, and was a mutual friend with some of the guys in Mother Love Bone.
Okay,
so he gets this album, this demo tape, and records his vocals, comes up, but then. Because of Andrew Wood's death, they do the whole Temple of the Dog thing as a tribute.
Yes.
So that was really the first time they all kind of got together and were, and so a lot of future members of Pearl Jam were together on that album, and that dropped and was recorded before they recorded this.
So that was when. So Mike was already in Pearl Jam at that time.
So Mike McCready had already been recruited to Pearl Jam. So I think Stone and Jeff, from Mother Love Bone, had first gotten Mike on board.
Yes.
Then they get Eddie.
Right.
And then they had a drummer that came in and played drums on the album. It wasn't Dave Abruzzese because he's the one who actually toured.
I think they had 3 guys during.
I'm blanking
on
the name of the guy that actually laid.
Because it's Matt Cameron now, right?
It's Matt Cameron now, and then they had Jack Irons for a while.
Yeah.
They had Dave was the one who toured after this album.
The fucking guy's
but the
name?
guy that came in and played drums on this album, as soon as he finished recording the album, went into rehab. So he didn't tour with them, and he never played with them again.
Oh, okay.
But 7 sessions as a band to practice. Record this over 2 weeks. This album was recorded for $25,000.
What?
25 grand. Right?
Holy shit.
They spent, I think, maybe 75 grand on mixing and mastering.
Oh my god.
Overall, they spent 100 grand on this album.
Oh my god.
That is one of the most monumental albums in the history of rock and roll. But so
shit.
I think when you hear a song like Release on this album, which is a band who has barely been together.
Right.
Just hey, let the tape roll.
Yeah.
We're gonna just start playing.
Figure it out.
Stone comes in with this amazing kind of drone.
The drone D.
Just a very simple on that drone D.
Yeah.
And then Eddie just starts spitballing. The rest of the band comes in. Eddie starts spitballing, and it's laid on tape.
Yeah.
And you're just like, how do you do
What
that?
is going on?
What kind of chemistry is needed? What kind of magic needs to happen for you to go into a studio without a solid plan for this one track?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it's one of my favorite tracks on the album.
What's funny about that is that like I remember a story similar to when Nirvana was doing Nevermind. Kurt had the Something in the Way. Very simple. Whatever. It's just that 2 chords in the song and was just singing so low that they're like, put a fucking mic on that, right? Like someone heard that and was like, get it. So they just threw a condenser in his face and was like,
really?
They got the vocal track out of it, and it ended up being like a song that was on the record, but it was just some bullshit that he would sing off the top of his head. It doesn't rhyme.
Yeah.
Doesn't it doesn't fit anything else that's on the record, but it's so dark.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
And it's just a perfect. A lot of grunge is a cry for help. Like they're not help, but a cry for solidarity. Like I can't be the only one that's feeling this way, And Eddie was big in that too, because Eddie was less of a Eddie wasn't a self-hatred guy. Eddie wasn't like a suicidal dude, and he's obviously not. He was never the biggest partier or drug guy out of that group of the grunge people, but Eddie was more about reporting what was going on in his family and be like, hey man, I did this too. Like you're okay. You can do this.
He's just so introspective.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
But
it's not like I keep bringing him up, but the Nirvana thing was like, I hate myself and want to die. Is one of the names of the song. Like nothing is ever going to come out of Pearl Jam's catalog like that.
It seemed to me like, especially with a song like Release, where this is his way of getting demons off his chest, or just letting go of things that have been weighing on him. And he talks about how as a kid the way he did that was through other people's music, and specifically like The Who, Pete Townsend, like which were huge influences for him. So then he gets in this creative process with Pearl Jam and with Stone and Jeff, and Stone is just a phenomenal songwriter.
Yeah.
And Stone writes music for Eddie.
Yeah.
He says that now still. Yeah. He's like, I write music for Eddie.
Yeah.
Like he's my muse. This is what I write for. I write for his vocal. I write for his voice, for his lyrics.
Crazy.
But like for Eddie, I think a song like Release is just absolutely cathartic because it's him laying on tape a an emotion that he's just been dealing with since he was a young teenager.
Yeah, it's you can feel it too. Like you can actually really feel it
in his voice.
Yeah,
you can.
Yeah, and that was always something that was so crazy to me, because at the time, when I remember when this album really pulled me, I was having I've not always had the best relationship with my dad. It wasn't rocky. He wasn't an absent father or anything. He was a good dad, but it was just that we did not see eye to eye. And I remember this being like that song where it was like, he was like, my shit is way worse. Mm-hmm. You're going to be fine. Like everything is okay. Like just find a way to channel those feelings of, insecurity and like anger and doubt and things like that, and depression, and just funnel them into something positive, like music. I mean, and I didn't have that yet. Yeah. And I didn't realize that that's what was speaking to me until I really got down to until I became a musician, until I really got into that album and got into music in general, where I was like, I know what he's saying now. Mm-hmm. Like I've grown up and I know what he's talking about. Yeah. And I know that I was selfish to think that I was in a situation to identify with that. Mm-hmm. Like and that's the thing too. Like it doesn't always have to be the same exact thing when a song resonates with you. You can take little chunks of it and still feel connected to it.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily have to be completely about you. Now there's songs where I hear, I'm like, what the fuck did this guy put up cameras in my room?
Yeah.
Is he writing about me?
Yeah, he's writing about me.
Like Ray LaMontagne's Jolene, I always think, I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like I was like, he's writing this about me. I was like, but I never hear a song and don't like pick just a little bit out of it. Like there's always just a little bit, but it's never going to be 100% because, you're not ever going to have the same exact life as somebody, but there's little pockets, little moments that you can take from songs and lyrics and little things that can get you through something to be like, if this guy is all right, if this guy did it, then I should be okay too. Like I'm not the only person that's dealing with this, because he had a really rough beginning before he got to where he was comfortable, and the other guys in the band did too.
Absolutely.
So I mean, it's I mean, I feel like we're talking a lot about Eddie. I mean, Eddie is Pearl Jam. I mean, let's just say it. But I thought that it was great to see them. I mean, I remember going back and listening to early Temple of the Dog stuff and hearing him on Hunger Strike and listening to their interviews after they heard him on there for the first time. They're like, man, our guy sounds pretty good too. They were like, thank God. Yeah. So it was like, it was not a thank God because they didn't think he was good, but it was like he was duetting with the greatest,
one of the greatest singers ever,
and he's holding his own, doing his own thing. He's not trying to match him range wise. He's doing Eddie. Eddie's doing Eddie.
He's doing his place in the song, and he's bringing his part to that song. Yeah, absolutely. And you do mention, this is we have talked a lot about Eddie and his songwriting and stuff. And earlier you talked about Mike McCready, about him being just such an underappreciated guitar player.
So much.
And I had mentioned earlier Yngwie Malmsteen, and there was an interview with Yngwie that pissed me off to no end, where he specifically just shit on Mike McCready and basically said,
for what?
Because he said, and talking about this album in particular, he said, like, Mike McCready, he's overrated. He uses the wah pedal as a crutch. He's just not a good guitar player.
The wah pedal?
Yeah. He's using a wah as a crutch because he's not good enough to make the guitar sound how he wants it to sound.
Dude, have you heard this?
I'm like, listen, dude. I will listen to a Malmsteen solo and be like, wow, that was impressive.
Yeah.
Does it make me feel anything?
Yeah.
No. Am I going to want to listen to it again? No. I will listen to a Mike McCready solo a million times because it's so evocative. It's so emotional. Is it as fast as Malmsteen? No. It doesn't need to be.
No,
but it's about playing the right note at the right time and getting a feel.
Yes, feeling. Yeah, that's what I always say about Slash too. I was like, Slash gets he's highly considered one of the best guitar players ever. Not because of his stature and because of his image and popularity, but it was because he was. I mean, he had his signature touch to his own instrument. Like he was the reason why that instrument played. It wasn't because of theory or a teacher or something like that. And Mike McCready's the same way. And the wah pedal thing, like, What I don't even think of the wah pedal when I hear a solo from him. Like, because so him and Stone both play solos on this?
On this album, yes. I mean, Mike, by and large, has become
he's typically
evolved
the lead guy,
into
right?
the lead guitar player.
Yeah.
But Stone did play a couple solos on this album. I think he played a couple solos.
Yeah. I can't even think of any wah parts in this album.
On a live, I think there's some wah, like on the leads. But to say that using the wah is a weakness, no, you're looking for a particular sound or whatever, but it's not a weakness, and it's not showing any,
No,
you're no less of a guitar player.
No.
You're just trying to expand the sound of your instrument, and the wah helps you express what you want to express, and that's fine.
Right.
But for a live, for example, for this album, they had recorded a demo as Mookie Blaylock, which was their first name before Pearl Jam.
I know about Mookie Blaylock.
So their name was Mookie Blaylock.
They're like, hey, you can't be called an NBA player's name.
And
like,
so,
what? Okay, well then we'll just say we're Jizz then.
Exactly.
That's what Pearl Jam is. I remember someone going like, "What is that?" I'm like, "Do you really want to know?"
Yeah, exactly.
Remember that band, The Loving Spoonful? It's like that, but it's worse.
So they had recorded a demo as Mookie Blaylock, and then they go to the studio. They record this album.
Yeah,
and they could not capture. And again, this was an artistic decision on their part. They're like, the Alive we recorded on the demo is better than the Alive we recorded now. So that's what went on the album. Is like, so the recording of Alive that you listen to on this album is actually from the Mookie Blaylock demo. Yeah. The only thing they added on was the Mike McCready solo at the end. So he did add the solo after, which is an amazing solo that he says was inspired by a Ace Frehley solo. I don't know off of which Kiss song. Yeah. So
interesting.
I have to look that up.
I would not have picked that.
I have to look that up. I'll let you know
really
later what song. But it's a phenomenal solo. The
song's
song's amazing.
It's amazing.
But it was crazy to me that they said, hey, you know what? It sounded better before.
Yeah.
Let's go with that. It captured more of the feel of the song, the energy of the song. We're not quite getting it here. So.
It's too much wah, though, I think.
Yeah, it's a little too much wah. What a shitty-ass guitar player.
Mookie Blaylock wore number...
I don't know what number he was.
Number 10.
Oh, was he?
That's why it's number 10. That's why it's 10, yeah.
So I thought it was 5 guys, 10 hands. It was 10 hands making this music. So he was number 10?
He was number 10.
Oh.
Yeah. Don't fact check me on that and be like, "You're a fucking idiot." Yeah, no, it's
to vote for Josh's.
That's what I grew up hearing. I'm pretty sure that they're like, okay, because they were all Bulls fans, or Eddie was, and I think at the time Mookie Blaylock was on the Bulls.
Okay,
yeah, he was an NBA player at the time, and then they were.
I would have assumed he would played like for Seattle.
Yeah, I think he played for Golden State too at the time. But I think at the time he was on the Bulls. I can't remember for sure. Maybe not the Bulls. Maybe not in '91 because '91 you would have known because it was Jordan. But anyway, that's a different podcast. He was an NBA player, and I remember them being like, okay, well, if we can't call ourselves Mookie Blaylock, because that was what they were going to call the band, right?
Right. That was the name of the band.
Yeah. So they were like, well, if we can't go by that and we can't call the album that, then we're just going to take his number.
Oh wow.
So
see, I'm learning stuff about this.
I think so.
Yeah, wow.
So we'll have to look that up. Yeah. I hope I'm right.
I thought it was a reference to 10 hands.
I think that's what it. It could be that.
Yours
too,
is way more interesting, and also makes more sense because their name was Mookie Blaylock before it was Pearl Jam. So.
I think that's what it was, and that's what I have written down here. The name the name of the album. I thought you knew that. Yeah. Now I'm guessing. Now I'm second guessing myself.
No, that actually sounds more plausible.
You're the Pearl Jam aficionado here. You're like you know more about Pearl Jam than I think I know about Dave Matthews. Actually.
There's no way.
I really think that's true. Okay, so I got 2 more questions for you.
All right.
So number 1, don't think, just say it. Your favorite Pearl Jam song to play?
Black.
Okay, I agree, 100%. That's my favorite one to play. Even though I like doing release, but I can't always hit those notes, and you have to be able to hit those notes to do it.
We've only done the release a handful of times, and I love doing it.
That.
But I think, and we do a live a lot. We do Porch a lot, which is a lot of fun to play live just because of the energy. But I think just for me, for what it does to me, not necessarily what it does for for people that are listening. Black, always just has a special place for me, and always, and like I was telling you earlier, it just always puts me in a place that no other song puts me.
Yeah.
And it's almost like after I finish playing Black, I almost have to. I need a minute.
Yeah,
I almost need a moment.
You need to decompress. And be like,
it's heavy.
Yeah, it is. It's a heavy song. Yeah, it's so wild. So before I get into the last couple of questions, but good. We are going to be kind of playing a show together in January. They do. In accordance with this album, you guys do a show, Pearl January.
Yeah, that was right? Keith. That Keith came up with that name.
Yeah,
we had done a Pearl Jam show. I don't think it was in January. We did one before.
It was at Nolan's, didn't you do it? You did like a full hour, full 2 hours.
I think it was at Silver. Was it Nolan's?
I think it was Nolan's because I remember I came and you guys were teasing all these songs that I was like, you better do this one. And yeah.
So I think it was Nolan's where we did like
did a bunch,
a whole set of a whole Pearl Jam set as part of our one of our shows. And so Keith suggested that for January we do the same thing. So
I love that. He texted.
That's gonna be, does he know where it's gonna be? I don't know where it's gonna be. Did he tell you?
I think he said Silver King.
Okay.
Which is fucking great.
That'll be awesome.
I love Silver King. Shout out Silver King Brewing.
Yeah. Shout out Sweet Lick IPA.
That's right. I had that on Saturday for the first time.
Good.
I hadn't had it before.
It's so good.
It's so good.
It's a great beer.
So good. I love that. So we'll be playing a show together, and this may or may not be out before that show happens. I'm gonna try to get this out. We're gonna have to release this in 2 parts.
So what? Yeah.
But we're gonna.
No kidding.
But I love it.
What everybody wants to know is Josh Plummer bringing his drums?
You're gonna have to ask Santa Claus about that, because if he don't bring my ass some drums, I would love to, man. I would love to do that. That would be so great. I mean, the Pearl Jam was one of the first bands that I would, when I first got, because in the beginning it was like AC/DC Back in Black, like the boom, boom, like real, like
it's always like 4/4
one bass, one snare, just driving, it's just real easy. Just really easy stuff. I would just plug it in and go. But they were one of the first bands that I listened to because the guitar player that I was playing with knew a lot of their stuff, and I was like, oh, I can do this, because we weren't really doing like Zeppelin or anything like that. We were doing a lot of Pearl Jam, a lot of like we did like Alter Bridge. We were playing like Disturbed, Chevelle, Incubus, Stained. Things like that, like Creed stuff, obviously. That was just what we grew up on, because Mark Tremonti was a fucking phenomenal guitar player. It was perfect for being Creed, because we weren't amazing. We didn't have a singer, so it was great. Yeah. We were accenting the best parts of that band, which is not singing and not lyrics. Yeah, so I'm hoping to get on the drums for. I even texted Keith. I was like, man, if I can get my kid over there, I'd love to do we could do a live together,
especially at Silver King. Would be crazy.
Yeah. So throw them up on the stage, and hopefully I don't fall
Pearl
through the
Jam
bottom.
We'll send some info out as far as like a date.
Yes,
and that'll be a lot of fun. And we're still trying to come up with like what new Pearl Jam songs we're gonna add to our repertoire for that night to do a whole Pearl Jam set. Yeah, but I'm super stoked.
Send them in.
Super stoked.
Send them in to Sweet Lick. Send them in. Let them know what you want to hear. All right. So, okay. We talked about this before, just because I like to give you a baseline, because this is a tough question to kind of think and formulate an answer to. What is your ideal venue and an opening act for Pearl Jam? And have you seen it already? Because you kind of told me about one that was like, I mean, that's not even a fantasy line. You've already seen it. It's already great.
Yeah. So, I think if I were to put 2 acts together, I want to say it was Pearl Jam that had a Mumford and Sons opener, which I think to me would have just been a religious experience to see both of those bands in one night on one stage.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Would have just been unreal. So I think, to see those two together, just musically what they do, because Mumford's another band we could probably talk for hours about.
Yeah.
But
we will.
What they do, even when you're listening to their album, but live, it's just like exponentially higher. Mumford just elevates your soul somehow. And I don't know how to explain that, but it's like, I don't know if it's because I don't know if it's the melody, I don't know if it's the tempo, I don't know what it is about their music specifically.
It's hard to say, but yeah.
But there are some of those songs when they'll enter a little quiet, and then they get into this build up, and you just want to put your arms up, and you are just taking to another planet.
Yeah, I remember that feeling when I first heard.
And Mumford does it song after song after song after song, and you're like, what is the formula to get that?
Because they're not following a format of a studio. They're doing what they're like, hey, listen, we're doing what Marcus Mumford and Company says.
Yeah.
And you are going to fucking record this. Like, roll tape, and then we will tell you what we're going to do.
And then when you see them live, and I've been fortunate to see them live twice. But
you son of a bitch.
I know, but it's like one time was with Keith. We were up in St. Augustine. The other time was with my kids because they're huge Mumford fans. But
that's what it is. That's what it is.
Yeah.
They have great taste in music. That's why we can have a conversation.
Early. You got to start early. So when they're kids, you can't play kids music and shit that is not good. When they're kids, you have to play good music for them. You got to play good music for them so that when they're bigger, they appreciate it.
That's right. Yeah.
But
get it right, parents. Start them off early with some Eddie Vedder.
But yeah, it would be Mumford and Pearl Jam, and you know, honestly, for the size and the sound. I think we're really lucky here in Tampa.
Oh my God!
Amalie Arena is such a good venue.
It is.
I have not seen a bad sounding show there.
No.
No. And it's small enough to where you don't feel like you're in the rafters and you can't see anything.
Right.
Even if doesn't matter where you are in the arena. It's you get a good seat. The sound, they somehow manage to always make it great. It's easy in and out.
Yeah.
So I
really
think
is.
Amalie is an anomaly.
Yeah.
It really is. I think, so I wouldn't go far. I would say if I could see Pearl Jam with Mumford and Sons right here in my own city, at Amalie Arena, I would die happy. That would be a phenomenal show.
That would be pretty fucking incredible. I agree. I think that's. I mean, I don't think I could formulate a better lineup than that. I mean, I'd love to see them with like another group like Foo Fighters. Like I said, I think that'd be great. But I think that Pearl Jam, to me, because I've seen both Foo Fighters and Pearl Jam. I think Pearl Jam is a way better live band. I think.
I saw Foo Fighters last.
But
last year
I love Dave and
time.
I love the Foos. But I just think that Pearl Jam just commands the stage. They do something different every time. It's just that to me. That I put that into the calculation of like what I think is a great concert of like I don't want to be able to look at your set list the night before and be like, okay, I know exactly what you're gonna do. I want to look at what I missed out on the night before.
Right.
When I see Dave, I'm like, fuck, you watched her last night.
That happens
not getting
with
it tonight.
That happens with Dave Matthews. It happens with Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
And like I said, I've seen Pearl Jam, I think 5 or 6 times. Festival setups, shows like Amalie and American Airlines.
Yeah.
I've seen Eddie Vedder do his solo show twice.
His Into the Wild stuff, by the way, is fucking
so when he did his ukulele tour, I got Betsy got me like 10th row seats for my birthday, and I was sitting behind Eddie Vedder's wife because it was the last show of the concert, the last show of the tour, and so it was Eddie Vedder's wife was right in front of me with his daughters, and so they were going up on stage to bring him stuff in between songs.
No way.
And we're like, dude, and we're 10 rows back, and Eddie is just so loose, and he's human. He makes mistakes. I make mistakes all the goddamn time when I'm singing.
Yeah.
And I forget lyrics or I'll forget a chord and Keith will look at me and be like, okay, that was jazzy.
Jazzy. Yeah.
And I'm like, God damn, Keith, I'm so sorry. But so when you see an Eddie solo show, you kind of get a little bit of that. But it makes me love him even more. So I'm like, dude, this guy's just up there having fun.
Yes.
Giving a great show and just kind of doing it from the heart. And the second time I saw him was in Kentucky, in Louisville. He headlined it was a bourbon and music festival.
Oh,
so
hello.
Yeah, and it was like Eddie Vedder was the headliner, but before him it was like Band of Horses, Stevie Nicks played.
Oh my God.
Steve Miller.
Holy shit.
Gary Clark Jr.
Dude.
Joe Bonamassa.
Get the fuck out of here.
Like guy. What's his? Oh my God, Buddy Guy,
yeah.
I mean, it was like a who's who.
That is
this show.
Every name that you mentioned, by the way. Well, Steve Miller was Jasmine and I's first concert together. Actually,
wow.
At Ruth Ecker.
Wow.
We got lucky. Yeah, there's a guy that was actually going to go to that show. He got sick. He was in the hospital. and we ended up. He was like, "Hey, do you want to give these tickets to somebody you know?" My dad gave them to us, and that was our first show together. And it was crazy. He's like 75, and he's still ripping. Wild. Man. But everybody else that you mentioned on that list is like they're a bucket list for me. Gary Clark too.
I've seen Gary Clark 3 times. Insane. Oh. One of the coolest times I saw Pearl Jam was because there are a few bands that I will fly to see. Pearl Jam I'll fly to see. I'm like, if they're playing a cool show somewhere.
Right.
They played a festival in Philadelphia probably 5-6 years ago. Mm-hmm. Jay-Z started a festival called Made in America.
Oh, wow.
And the very first Jay-Z Made in America festival, Pearl Jam was a headliner. Uh-huh. Gary Clark Jr. was there when he was a nobody. Chris Cornell was on the list to play solo.
Holy hell!
And I'm sitting here going in my head, I'm like, okay, on the same day, Chris Cornell's going to be playing. 2 bands later is Pearl Jam.
Wild.
Chris Cornell will come on stage and sing Hunger Strike with Eddie, and I'm just going to die. Like,
oh my God,
I'm just going to die.
I didn't even think about that.
I'm just going to die if he comes on stage. So Chris Cornell had to cancel because he had a throat infection.
Oh my God. Was that 2012? Was it 2012?
No, I think it was after that. It was...
Okay. Because in
it might have been 2012.
2012, I was going to see him solo for the Songbook tour with my buddy Jared.
Yeah.
And the show was in Miami, and it was while I was in Boca at the time. I was living because I was at FAU. I was going to school there, and my mom got me tickets for Christmas or something, and he had to cancel the show, and I remember he had to reschedule it for like May in 2013. So
it might have been around the same time,
or 2011, and then reschedule it for 2012, or one of those times. It was right around there. He had like some sort of vocal surgery or the problem.
It was some vocal thing, and I remember he canceled last minute.
Yeah.
I ended up seeing Chris Cornell when he did the Songbook tour here at Tampa Theater. Whenever he rescheduled it, when he came back and did the solo, which was amazing.
That one too.
But the whole time I'm thinking, man, if Chris Cornell and Pearl Jam are on the same lineup on the same day, there's no way they don't sing together.
Doing Hunger Strike.
There's no way. So we get to Philly and they're like, "We're sorry to inform you, Chris Cornell will not be performing. In his place, Gary Clark Jr." And we're like, "Who the fuck is that?
Who the fuck is that guy?" Yeah.
So it was a 2-day festival. Gary Clark had played the day before on a side stage.
Yeah.
And killed it.
Yeah.
And he was so good that the next day they're like, "There's a main spot now on the main stage." Couple of bands right before Pearl Jam, you're playing that. So Gary Clark played there, and that was the first time I saw Gary Clark. And
he's a Texas guy.
Yeah, he's from Austin, and he's just amazing.
Wild.
So I've seen that was the first time I saw him. I went up to Orlando to see him again. I saw him in Kentucky when he played with Eddie Vedder again
at Bourbon and Beyond.
At Bourbon and Beyond.
That was with Nathaniel, right?
That was Nathaniel was last year. So Eddie played the inaugural Bourbon and Beyond. So it was the first one. We've been to all 3.
My dad went to 20. I think he went to 2018 and 19.
Okay,
maybe 2018. Maybe just 2018. But yeah, he went to one of them.
Yeah. We've been to all 3 versions, and it's a great festival because it's bourbon and good music, and it's an older crowd.
That is, I mean,
not a lot of like 18-year-olds just getting stupid.
Yeah.
Any other music festival, that's the case.
Right.
You go to a bourbon festival with the lineup that you see for Bourbon and Beyond.
Yeah, 18-years are not drinking.
They're not
bourbon.
there. They're not drinking bourbon. They're not going to go see Eddie Vedder, So or Buddy Guy or Gary Clark.
18-year-olds that tell you that they enjoy bourbon are lying to you.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't like bourbon until like a year ago.
Yeah.
I still get stuff that I'm like I've not grown into yet.
Yeah,
like
it's an acquired taste.
But it's so much better for you to drink than anything else.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah, it's just because
much better.
You can sip it. It's great. It's complex, But I think you have to acquire that palate. It does take time.
Yeah,
like I would not expect. Like my college age kid to enjoy bourbon. He would probably think it tastes like nail polish. And,
right. Which I'm not going to get into this story now. I'm going to save this for when we're with Keith. But we have a Pappy Van Winkle story that we have to share, which is an embarrassing moment for me. But so we're gonna wrap it up here in a second. But I want to ask one more question before you go. So the whole point of this podcast, which we're gonna break this up into 2, I wanted to ask you about your scratch track. So for those that don't know, I'll reiterate it again. The scratch track is basically something that you do to kind of just sort of base timing around, and it's a track that you're going to be okay with throwing out and doing again. So what is something that you would say in your life that you not throw out, but if there was something that you knew you were going to get a second chance on, would you do something again differently, or would you like I always think of a scratch track as it's a parachute when you're jumping out of a plane.
Yeah.
No, you don't always get that, but a scratch track is, in the studio you get it, but in life you don't. So what is your scratch track?
I mean, 100% spend more time with my kids.
Yeah,
yeah. It's
wow.
I think it's really hard to balance everything that life throws at you. Right.
That was just so fast, man. Like,
no,
I love that answer, but that was like, damn. The two people I've asked this before, it's like, this is pre-recorded, so I mean, I don't know how many are coming out, but we've done 2 other episodes, and when I asked that, it took a bit. It was I don't know,
and
I love that it's so quick.
But it's really kind of front and center on my mind because my kids are older now. I've got a son in college. The other 2 are in high school, and it's almost on a daily basis where you're like where you realize
time's flying.
Time flew.
Yeah.
And Facebook does this fucking horrible thing of sending you memories.
I hate that.
I know it's like amazing, and then at the same time it makes you want to jump out a window.
Look at me, it's not. I wasn't fat.
So, but what it does is it's like, and I heard this podcast. It was a few months ago, but it really kind of again struck a chord with me because it was somebody talking about how I can't imagine losing a child. I mean, that's on another level.
God, yeah,
I can't imagine losing a child. That's on another level.
You're right.
But as a parent, you have a child who's 4 or 5 years old, and you have that face, and you have that moment, and you're never going to get that back. So you lost that person.
Yeah.
That person is still here. They just look very different as an adult. It's a whole different set of circumstances.
Yeah.
But you can still miss a person who's still with you, and and that concept was crazy to me.
That is,
and it helped explain.
That's so weird.
A lot of it to like how Betsy and I feel.
Man.
It's like you'll look at a picture of your kids when they were younger or when they were babies, and you had absolute 100% control over everything they did.
Yeah.
And that person's still here with me, but not that person. Right. So it's weird to explain that you can miss a person that is still with you.
That is so crazy.
And I miss that. And my job is very time demanding and time consuming.
Yeah.
Obviously I love to go out and play and gig and do stuff.
Of course. Yeah.
But the day only has 24 hours, and
it's all about how you use it.
It's all about how you use it.
Yeah.
And if I could go back, honestly, I would say the one thing that I wish I could do over again was have those moments.
Oh man.
Fuck me.
Yeah.
Have those moments back where you could just spend more time.
That's so wild, dude. I'm gonna this is. I mean, is there any better start to like a fucking podcast than this? This is wild, man. Like when you say that too, like when you.
And I love we've had a great relationship. We have done a lot of stuff together, but you always wish you could have done more.
And I feel that too, and I see that. So I see that happening with my parents, and I see that I see them speaking to me as like a friend now because I'm an adult, but I know that I can see in their eyes that they still have me as like a little thing. I see my mom looking at me on stage sometimes, and it's like, I mean, it's wild. Like just to think that she was a part of this, and my dad was a part of this, and like my dad was cranking music on the way to long baseball trips, and like my mom was like blasting Billy Joel's "Stranger" when I was 4 years old, and like when I'm an adult, I'm like, I know this song. But she's like, yeah, motherfucker, I played this for you for years. What do you think? Like my mom was a big Parrot head, and like this reason why I don't like Jimmy Buffett. But there's also some other stuff that she loved growing up, listening to Billy Joel specifically that I really enjoy now because it takes me back to those moments that you're talking about.
Right.
And I can tell you from a child's perspective, music is such a big
absolutely
bonding moment, and they'll never forget those moments. They'll never who is it? Alfonso?
Danny from Pearl Jam?
Yeah, Danny from Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
Danny for Pearl Jam, he'll never forget that.
He won't. And
he'll never forget that.
And you know, I know he won't forget it, and he has not, and we talk about it all the time, but it left as much of an impression on me as it did on him, which is really cool, because that's a memory I'll have moving forward.
Yes.
And it's a day I'll never forget. And like I said, I've seen Pearl Jam multiple times. That was the most special time I've seen them.
Yeah.
And the first concert I took Alfonso to was Muse, so I took him to Muse.
Oh wow, that's another good show.
The first one I took him to was 21 Pilots, I think. So
wow.
So
dude, your kids are living it.
We went
man.
to great shows together. We had great nights, and it was a lot of fun. Kind of sharing that moment.
Yeah.
But it's almost like, you know, it sucks because I was there for them, and we did stuff together. We've always done a lot of stuff together. We've gone to, you know, football games, and I go to their sporting events, and I try to be as involved as I can. But you always wish you had more, because because of how they change, because they eventually leave your house. They go on to become independent.
Yeah.
And
you just had your first leave for
and
for
that
college.
hit us so hard.
Yeah.
And that I think is what kind of really brought everything home. And it's like, wow, it happened so fast. It feels like we just started dating. Like so it's like we just started, and all of a sudden like I got all these gray hairs, we're older, and I got a kid in college, and you're just like
what the fuck
happened?
Yeah, right.
You know? So it's like I wish I could have you know, made some conscious decisions to we're humans. You make selfish decisions. I do stuff that's for me.
Yeah.
I do stuff that's for me because I think it's important to take care of yourself as
it
well
is,
in any relationship.
I've said that. Yeah. I've said that so many times, not only to Jasmine but to to people in my life. I'm like, I'm not making a decision to mean your needs. I'm doing it because I care about you. Need to care about yourself a lot.
100%.
Yeah, and your own your own mental state.
But I think that psychologically creates regret sometimes, or like it creates this doubt. Did I do enough? Did I spend enough time? But I super do wish I had more time with those little faces, like with those small kids when they were still in my house.
That's heavy, man.
Yeah.
I love that, though.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's what I would want to get.
I love it. Dude, you are the fucking man. I love our friendship. I love our commonalities. I love your taste in music, and I love that you've introduced me to the importance of collecting physical music, in specifics vinyl.
Yes.
And I love that you are a big component in drinking stuff that you enjoy.
Yeah.
Not just drinking to drink.
Yeah. Life's too short.
It is. It's too short to drink Natty Light. Stop fucking drinking that shit. I'm looking at you, people. I got buddies still that when we go to fire, bonfire parties, and they're breaking out the Natty Light. I'm like, I feel like I gotta drink it now, but but there's a little voice in the back of my head like, what would they do? Don't do that, But yeah, dude, it was so much fun doing this, and it really didn't feel like the camera was even on for this. I felt like we were just sitting on the couch, like before when we were doing the preliminary discussion. We were just talking music and talking life and love and in music. And I think that's what this is going to be about. So thank you guys so much for listening. Please, before we go, plug anything you want to promote, your music pages, your anything. Just go.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of stuff, but follow us on Instagram and Facebook, Sweet Lick Tampa. Check out our gigs. We don't play very often, but when we do, we try to make it fun for you.
Hell yeah, they do.
And we try to get this guy to come out and sing with us as much as we can.
When I'm not working, I'm there. So for sure.
But so just give us a follow on Instagram and Facebook. We'd appreciate that.
That's awesome, man. Well, thank you again for being here.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah,
this has been a lot of fun.
This was great. This was
awesome.
Yeah, thank you, man. Fun. So. Like always, follow us on Instagram at the Scratch Track Podcast. Follow us on Facebook, like that page, Scratch Track Podcast. We're going to have this up on the YouTube channel, so subscribe to that. That's the Scratch Track Podcast as well. And make sure you send us a Gmail of some stuff, or Gmail, whichever you want to do. Whatever guest you want to have on, any local musicians, if you want to be on yourself. Send us an email. Let us know what album you want to talk about, and we'll get into it, and we'll have a good time. All right. Thank you again for being here, man. This was a blast. We got to do this again. We'll do some Mumford, and we'll do some Def Leppard.
Anytime.
Yeah. So this was great, man. Thank you so much. We are going to get out of here, but thank you again. We will see you very soon. Bye. Hides me from what I can't see.